From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
And Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? Welcome on into Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Coming up on today's show, Tuesdays with Tom, talking culture, Mike Norvell, Florida State football, hoops, and some other stuff. Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. CPTallybar.com is the website. Check it out. Taco Tuesday. That's all day going down at the Corner Pocket on a Tuesday leading up to Trivia Night, which Corey fortunately won't be there, but go out regardless. They have a chance to win. It'll be fun. You won't have a whole bunch of people congregating around you if you're sitting next to Corey Clark because he's got to shake hands, kiss babies. Check it out, Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. You will not be disappointed.
How weird would it be if I actually did kiss somebody's baby?
No, it'd be awesome.
Do people still do that? When Brady was a baby and I introduced him to someone and somebody just kissed him, I'd be like, "What? Get your lips off my baby." I don't think that's a thing people do anymore. But back on the campaign trail, they did it all the time, I guess. And remember that host for Family Feud, Richard Dawson?
Jeez.
He kissed everybody.
Making out there.
Yeah.
Man. I don't know. Everyone likes a baby. If it's got chubby cheeks, just get a little smooch on the cheek. But, yeah, I get it.
Have you ever kissed a baby?
Not like a stranger's baby. Like, I remember,
Or just a baby in general?
Yeah, I think when I was a kid, like I was 6 or 7, and my cousin was born, and I held him, and like, oh, I'm a
okay.
baby.
All right, well, there you go. That's a good answer. Good job, Aslan.
But I love kids, and
Right.
I don't know how it goes when you have. I don't have children, obviously, but I'll see my friends and their kids. I'm like, oh man, I love your kids, but I don't want to go overboard with doting them with affection and stuff. So I try to play the cool uncle. I'm like, hey, what's up? What's up, kid?
Yeah, right.
So you got a fine line to walk. Fine line to walk.
It is indeed.
Lots of stuff to talk about coming up with Tom Lang towards the end of the program. We'll also, again, talk about hoops. Monday's press conference is kind of what we talk about in the beginning half of the show on Tuesday, Corey. So I guess let's get to it here. Sorry for the static. Wasn't my problem. Wasn't my fault, everybody. But Corey braved it out, typed everything out. If you're a member of Warchant.com, you don't have to listen to the entire 30-minute interview of each coordinator. You can just go to Warchant.com and read Corey's pretty much verbatim synopsis.
Well,
all the videos,
except for
though.
Papuchis.
Yeah.
I bowed out for Papuchis. I even said in the thread, I'm like, all right, John Papuchis is up next. If you want to know what he says, watch the video. Because I'm trying to get my man's video numbers up. So I don't want to give away the content. I want people to go and actually watch his video.
Yeah, we got people that are really buying in and getting behind the Support JP movement. Let's see here. Pensacola Packbuster. Man, my favorite part of the day is waking up and checking my phone for a Coach JP interview. Sam Knight 3, I'm posting here to prove that I watched Papuchis' press conferences.
Nice.
And Josh Somers, always include the JP interview in my Monday press conference rotation.
I love it. I love it, man. He's going to be really fired up. I'm telling you, man, he deserves it too. He's a coordinator. I know you guys aren't all that interested in special teams, but he deserves it too, and he's a good interview. Those are usually pretty interesting press conferences.
And our guy Harvard Blue as well. Let's run these views up. Yeah, man. Yeah. I think he's also has a little more autonomy to kind of speak a little bit more of his mind. It's not nearly. I don't want to diminish what a special teams coordinator does, but I feel like he's got a little bit more autonomy to kind of talk about things. I did ask him, Corey, I don't know if you went back and listened to it, but I did ask him about his kickers getting run into on the missed field goal.
What did he say?
You got to go watch it, Corey.
Oh, okay. You don't want to give it away. I got you. Why give away the milk or whatever that saying is? Well, you can buy the cow.
No, it's great, man. He was very coy about it, laughing. Admitted he's like, listen, when the ball is hit, he's like, I'm just tracking it. Like, I'm not looking at anything else. I'm tracking the ball, see where it goes. And then I saw them both down on the ground. I thought, oh, they must have got run into. We must be getting a flag. He's like, but we looked at it, and yeah, he's basically said, like, yeah, I think they were trying to help us out, but we obviously don't practice that. But maybe we should, and maybe we should do it a little bit better.
Yeah.
But he laughed it off, so it was
okay.
It was good to see. Because I also asked him about, and we'll talk about with Tom Lang towards the end, about this camaraderie they have right now. He just talks about how everybody's having just so much fun. Everyone's playing for each other. Everyone hasn't been around anything all that similar. And he was in Maryland, he's in Nebraska, he's in North Carolina. So he's probably coached at more Power 5 programs than anybody else on this staff. And Adam Fuller mentioned, and that's another kind of topic. I wanted to ask Norvell, but I would have gotten too long of a philosophical question. But I was asking Atkins and Fuller just basically like, listen, I get it, man. And Norvell said it, listen, we've been dominant the last few weeks, but we need to get better. And that's going to be the challenge. That's the push here now is, we have to get better despite the fact that we're having this success. And I was trying to get from Atkins and Fuller, can you look around your room and realize, all right, man, we're hitting our head on that ceiling, man. I look around this room and I like these guys, but man, we're maximizing. I don't know how much more we can really dial it up and stay on these guys. But they both kind of, brushed that off and said, no way, man. There's always room to get better. I like Fuller when he talked about, we look at it, there's not really a dial to turn. It doesn't go to 100. It's a constant challenge. It's a constant journey. It's we have to continue to get better, which makes it really exciting to see how the team is going to play the next 2 weeks, because there's no reason to think that complacency is going to creep in. And I wasn't suggesting complacency. I'm just wondering, how much better can they play? How much better can they play, do you think, Corey?
Well, not much. When you've outscored two conference opponents 83-6 in 2 weeks, and really given up one touchdown in 3 games, you're not going to play much better than this. But they can't say, yeah, we've hit our ceiling. Look, man, they have had mistakes, like Marquise Douglas just falling down when he could have gotten a first down. Johnny Wilson slipping. The fumbles by Travis, the interception by Travis against Miami. They haven't been perfect games, but nobody plays perfect games. Yeah. They've been about as close to perfect as you can imagine. And when you watch the clips of that defense and the way they pursued Tucker, the way on offense they're blocking at every level. Micah Pittman is he's relentless blocking. He's the smallest. Would he be the smallest? He's got to be the smallest starter on the team, and one of the smallest players on the team. Probably one of the smallest receivers in the ACC, and he blocks guys like he's Terrell Owens. It's remarkable what he does, but even still, I think they can keep improving, because that's what they've done. They played better against Miami than they did against Georgia Tech. They probably played the same against Syracuse as they played against Miami, but that was impressive because it wasn't the same atmosphere or the same stakes, and they still played at that level. So yeah, I think the question is, this team, I think that their ceiling is what they've done these last 3 weeks. They've been utterly dominant. So this team, I think, is hitting its head on the ceiling of what it can be. Great on offense, great on defense, and it's been great on both the last 3 weeks. What can this program be, though? I think that's what Norvell's charge is, to finish out this season and continue. When he answers the way he answers so philosophically, Adam Fuller too. Adam Fuller even said it, look, we keep improving, we try to improve, it's continuous improvement. The year ends and you start over. That's what a program is. And then try to, build to that standard. So I think that Norvell, when he talks philosophically, he's talking about this team, but he's also talking about the program. And he's just not saying the word program. But yeah, I think the program certainly hasn't hit its ceiling. This team, if it finishes 9-4, 10-3, and certainly if it finishes with a 5-game winning streak with 3 or 4, maybe 1 or 2 more convincing wins, that's knocking your head on the ceiling. I think when you look at the amount of NFL talent and elite level talent this team has, because it doesn't have a ton of elite level talent to be just boat racing teams like this.
Yeah, I just think they can maintain. I think if they that's you can't say that.
Right, he could never say, let's maintain. Let's just be as good as we were last week. Yeah, that's just not how coaches talk, and that's not really how they think. Because you did make mistakes. It's funny listening to Alex Atkins too, right? He's like, they did some good things, but we also gave up way too many negative plays, and he's never going to be like, yep, we got it, we figured it out. This is a great 5-man line. Can't be any better than this. Coaches don't think that way, and I hope players don't think that way. Like maybe Jordan Travis does, He's like, yeah, if Johnny Wilson doesn't slip and if Dylan Gibbons doesn't knock me blindsided, I would have been 23 for 23. There's nothing more I can do, except maybe not fumble it when I'm hit. But all these other guys, they all have room for improvement.
Anything else from the coordinators that caught your ear while you were hacking it out, typing it all out for the loyal, dedicated subscribers of warchant.com?
Yeah, I like, the way Fuller talks about those defensive linemen and what they mean and how they eat up blocks. Like just getting Fabian, he was talking about Fabian Lovett and how, he maybe didn't have a great stats game, which he didn't, but he makes such a difference that those linebackers can start playing downhill. And look, defensive tackles are never going to put up huge numbers unless you're Aaron Donald, who's just maybe the best one that's ever lived. But most defensive tackles don't put up stats, but they allow the linebackers to go roam free and make crazy plays, or the defensive ends to get single blocked and go make plays, and that's what Fabian Lovett does. And then he talked about what else was I going to say that did catch my he talked about like a play with Joshua Farmer, that the play he made. So when they made the when they got the turnover, when Jordan Travis turned it over and Syracuse had the ball 14-3, the first play is diagnosed perfectly by Kalen DeLoach and Josh Farmer coming down and making a 2-yard tackle for loss. The next play, Fuller brings up the fact that there was a play in practice that week, a very similar play where Josh Farmer kind of did not do well, apparently. And Odell let him know about it. He did not play the play well, and he goes, Odell coached him up because his footwork wasn't very good, and he got exploited on the outside. He goes, the same play happened in the game. Joshua Farmer's footwork was perfect. He was coached up great, and he went and made a tackle for a 6-yard loss. And he uses those as examples of a program growing. And it's true. Just, Joshua Farmer's a young guy. Patrick Payton's a young guy. It's cool to see they can take coaching and they continue to grow, and they kind of grow alongside this program. Like, think about, and he said Joshua Farmer's light years ahead of when he had to play against Louisville. And that's clear. And then you think about Patrick Payton and what he's becoming. Now, Patrick Payton has, to me, a little different sauce, a little special sauce to him. Like, he's been making plays since he went into the game, but now he knows what he's doing, and he's making plays. It's not just all on instinct. That's what excites me so much about that kid, man. He came in his very first play against Louisville after Jared Verse got hurt. He noticed that he somehow knows it's a screen and sprints to the spot and tackles the kid at the line of scrimmage. It was just a great instinctual play, and then he's just been doing that ever since. But he continues to get better, and he knows what he's doing, and is playing with a ton of confidence. They all are. So I just think that's interesting. I would encourage everyone to go watch those videos, because this, unlike other Mondays when you kind of get more in depth in the actual what happened in the game and who's coming up the next week, it really was a lot of philosophical talk, wasn't it, about this program, where it is and where it's still trying to go. Yeah, and credit to Ira for kind of getting the ball rolling in that sort of direction. I think he kind of was trying to get a kind of look into, how much do you have left to push this team? How much of it is just maintaining where you're at and kind of getting a feel for where they are? And then, Norvell's obviously talking about, listen, it's all about work, and we showed back up, gave him a little bit of more, a little bit of a later time to show up on Sunday for the walkthrough, but everybody was dialed in. So, there's a crazy belief, man. I mean, I don't want to call it crazy belief. It's they're putting in the work, they're seeing it pay off. It's really special, such a strong word. I can't find the proper adjective. I speak for a living. I should be able to. But, man, I didn't see any of this coming, man. And the fact of the matter that they were also confident that they were that close to it, like they were on the cusp of it, and now they've kind of pushed through it, it's really delightful to be able to kind of watch. So, I think honestly, man, I think the end of last season should have filled you with hope, except for the Florida game. But that's a big exception. You can't just overlook losing to a coachless Florida team when you actually have something to play for. So, but if say not somehow, Jordan Travis doesn't get hurt and they win that game, 27-20, and they go to a bowl, win or lose, they go to a bowl after starting 0-4. I think you would have probably seen this coming, right? I think you wouldn't have been so, cynical. And you had every right to be cynical. It was 3-6 followed by 5-7 and an 0-4 start after that 3-6. But when you think about it, he started here. Was he 3-10 to start his career at Florida State? Norvell was 3-10, and then since then, I don't know what he is, but he's done well. He's 12-5.
Sorry, I should have been able to help you out with that better, but no, I don't have it in front of me.
Something like that, and he very well could be 14-5 down the stretch, or 14-6 down the stretch. That to go from 3-10 to 14-6, and when you think about those losses, crazy loss to NC State, you lead at Clemson in the fourth quarter. You lose to Florida by 3. You lose to Wake because you played horrible for a second quarter. All those things, like they proved the last 8 games of last season. Okay, something is changing within this program. They're not great by any stretch, but something is going on. Like they are not an embarrassment. They are not getting blown off the field by these teams. Going up to Clemson, who has so much more talent than you, experienced talent, and leading in the fourth quarter, that was a great sign. And then everything would have been beating Miami. Everything would have been a great culmination last year because they didn't blow that stupid Florida game. And then they start this year the way they started this year. Now, and then they overcome that losing streak to look where they are now, 7-3, staring down 8-3, going to a decent bowl. And there is a chance a lot of dudes come back, and you have a core coming back off this team. Man, yeah, it's hard not to believe in what this guy's doing because it's not just that they're winning games, right? It's the way they're winning games. And we deal with these kids. We see them at practice. We see how hard they practice. And I think it's set up for the long haul, man. I could be completely wrong. I've been wrong once or twice before in my life. I think it's set up for the long haul. I think he's got a great structure in place, and he's got great a foundation. It's got to be the roster's got to get a little bit better overall, depth purposes, and at the elite level up top. You need some Harold Perkinses in your life. If you get a couple of those dudes, like just dudes, like the Jalen's and Derwins, you just need a couple of those guys, man. Top 10 first-round picks that you get for more than a year, unlike what you're probably going to have at defensive end these last 2 years. If you can start getting those kind of dudes up from the high school ranks, 2 or 3 a year, man, I just think it's set up for the long haul. I do believe in what this guy's doing.
3-10 start. He's been 12-6 ever since the loss to Louisville last year. So,
okay, 12-6 with a chance to be 14-6, right?
Yeah.
Or 15-6. I mean, that's a 3-10. And look, man, 3-10 with some all-time ugly losses. Like not just getting obliterated by the Bailey Hawkmans of the world and getting embarrassed at Louisville, but then obviously the Jacksonville State game and then being down, 28 points to Wake in 2021. Like all that stuff, to go from that, literally you're down 31-7 to kind of an average Louisville team at home in week 4. And then since that moment, I just feel like you've watched a top 15 program. Since halftime of last year's Louisville game, this has been a top 15-ish program. It's won some close games, it's lost some close games, but over that haul, I think you would agree, Aslan, that there haven't been. It's not been Georgia, Ohio State, but since that moment, this team has just been completely different. And yeah. I don't know why, because it was literally, I'm telling you, it's not a joke. And I've said this many times before, but when they made it 31-7, Ira literally said to me in the press box, I might have to do something else for a living. That's how bad it got. And nobody loves college football more than Ira. No. But that's how bad it got. And that's how bad it got for most of you guys watching it. Like, what are we doing here? This is a joke. And then since that moment, it's not only been competitive, it's turned into a pretty darn good football program, and it might just be becoming a really good one.
Last thing before we bring Tom in and then talk some hoops after that. Staying in the moment, how much do we need to just enjoy this season? How much are you using these next 2 weeks to kind of project ahead to next year? Because as I pulled up his schedule, or rather his record, Mike Norvell's, pulled up his Wikipedia page, see his Memphis run. He went 10-3 year 2, and then took a step back the following season, went 8-6. So again, but then after 8-6, he goes 12-1. I've never bought into again. I've never bought into this whole linear growth thing. I think just looking at that makes me want to just enjoy this year, enjoy these next 2 weeks for what they're going to be, and then the bowl game after that. I would like to think that you do take momentum from year to year, but we always get caught in that trap watching a bowl game. Whatever team wins a bowl game, like, oh, hey, man, Texas beat, freaking, I don't know, LSU in a bowl. They're going to be
they beat Georgia in a bowl.
Yeah, they're going to be top 5
ago.
next year. Then it doesn't work out that way. So are you just going to kind of try to savor what it would mean to win 10 games this year, or is it going to be hard for you to not to think about, man, if we bring this guy back and that guy back, and if we do this and that, then sky's the limit next year?
Yeah, it's getting to the point where, every time I watch them play, I kind of look ahead a little bit to like, man, it'd be nice if that guy came back. It'd be nice if that guy came back. By the way, shout out to Jamie Robinson. He got a Senior Bowl invite.
Nice.
So that's cool. I mean, I guess you guys probably want him to not take it and stay. But that's cool, man. That guy's, I just feel like that guy's going to be in the league for a good long while. And he's been very good since he's gotten here, man. Kind of overlooked because of what the defensive ends have done, the transfer defensive ends, but Jamie Robinson is the truth. But yeah, you look at this team and I kind of just want to enjoy it, man. I just kind of want to enjoy it because the reality is, especially with Florida State not quite set as a power by any stretch, you don't know from year to year what the roster is going to look like. So this will certainly be the last 3 games played with this group of players. And for all we know, 3 or 4 of the guys won't play in the bowl game. So you've got 2 games left with this group of players. So I would encourage just to enjoy what you see here. And then as soon as the Florida game's over, start, like I said, get on Twitter, get on social media, see what the posts are, but then start worrying about it. But man, I just think, a special team at Florida State, it's hard to designate a team that at best is going to finish 10-3 as a special team. But in a way it kind of is, right? Because there aren't, other than like the guys from 1977, there hasn't been another good Florida State team that went through this. Like we all talked about what LaMarcus and Telvin and those guys went through when they started their careers. Yeah, man, they were going to Peach Bowls and they were beating Notre Dame in bowl games as underclassmen. They didn't go through 3 and 6. They didn't go through COVID. They didn't go through Jacksonville State. So these guys going through the low, no team really in the last 50 years has gone through the lows that these guys have gone through. So for them to come back from that and become relevant again, to see Florida State on the bottom line scroll as a top 20 team, I think that should be appreciated. And then we'll worry about next season as soon as the clock hits 0 in Doak after the Florida game. But yeah, I think I'm more just going to try to enjoy what we have here in this team and the way they kind of have made Florida State, talked about again, kind of relevant. Certainly not an embarrassment anymore like they were through those first 13 games of Norvell's tenure. It's cool, man. It's cool. The player, like you've said, the players deserve a lot of credit for this because they could have easily just been like, I'm not listening to this guy anymore. What does he know? They did not. They really did buy in, and the guy clearly knows what he's talking about, and it's been cool to see. It's been cool to see a program kind of resurrected like this, and I really hope a lot of those guys come back because that team could be special.
One last quick thing. If you were worried or wondering why A.J. Duffy wasn't in the game, why Rodney Hill wasn't in the game, Mike Norvell
did. Yeah, good, Aslan. I'm glad you're bringing that up. Yeah, go for it.
Mike Norvell did mention that they're looking at their eligibility and they've got maybe a few more games left to use them in games and still maintain that red shirt. So it sounds like probably like Louisiana in the bowl game is – I guess maybe they're better. You'd rather deploy them in those 2 games or at least save it for the bowl game because you have a little bit more muscle memory or something. I don't know. It keeps you a little bit closer to your offseason program if you can save your eligibility for the bowl game. Because if they played Syracuse, they likely would get him against Louisiana, and then they're done for the year. So I guess that's kind of the reasoning, right? And
also, there is a thought, if Jordan Travis decides he's not going to be here next year, he might not play in the bowl game. So then you're down to 2 quarterbacks, and you really wouldn't want to have A.J. Duffy already at 4 games played with a bowl game.
Right. And then Tate's helmet gets knocked off.
Yes. And then what? I guess you just go to the Wildcat and tell Toafili to catch it. But you wouldn't want that. You wouldn't want to burn a red shirt for a bowl game. And the same thing with Rodney Hill. Like, I think they expect, we'll see. Again, you can't look ahead. Can't look ahead, gang. But they expect that Rodney Hill will probably get some action in this game coming up. And also, you don't know, at that position especially, a kid gets banged up, another kid gets banged up. Maybe another kid decides he's not going to play in the bowl game. You just don't want to – you want them to both be sitting at 3 games for the bowl game, 3 games played. Because the rule, obviously, is that you can play 4 games and still redshirt. And they don't want to burn a red shirt for one drive against Syracuse. And I know it's disappointing. In fact, I really didn't understand last week or this week. I almost tweeted out free Rodney Hill. But then I did. That made sense. I'm glad did Atkins bring that up or did Norvell bring that up?
I thought Norvell brought it up.
Maybe, but I'm glad he did because I was confused. I'm like, are they upset with Rodney Hill? He's at practice. He's running hard. Why wouldn't they let him play? But that makes perfect sense. They didn't want to burn his red shirt, although there is a chance that Rodney Hill will be good enough that 5th year won't matter.
There's so many sports books to choose from. You need a platform that's going to make it simple to bet and win. Go to MyBookie. MyBookie.ag's got a huge selection of odds, props, contests for all your sports betting needs anytime, anywhere. Can't wait for a few months for them to drop 2023 National Championship futures. You all know what we're going to do. We're going to do a big family Wake Up Warchant bet on the 2023 national title. We're going to probably pick a team in the state of Florida. We'll let you know which team soon. Stream games you can live bet while you watch so you can turn your game day into payday when you use mybookie.ag. Sign up for free today. Use the promo code WAKEUP. It's all one word, WAKE UP. And you'll claim a half deposit match. You guys have been taking them down too hard using Corey and I's winners. So they're not doubling it. They're just doing a half match deposit of any amount up to $1,000. So if you put in $100, they'll throw you $50. Use that $50 to pick winners based on what we'll give you tomorrow, Wednesday. Wednesday is when we hand out the winners. Hopefully you'll tune in for that segment. Promo code again is WAKEUP to claim that deposit bonus and give yourself that competitive edge. When you play with MyBookie, you're not just betting, you're joining the winning team. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie, mybookie.ag. Who loves you, everybody, more than Tom Lang? Tom Lang working hard, working all the darn time. He's here with us. It's Tuesdays with Tom Lang, Executive Director of the Jeff Cameron Show, Director of Original Media for Warchant.com, the ultimate Seminole sports horse. Tom, I'm going to ask you how you're doing. You're like, I'm all right, and you're not doing all right, but thanks for being here. We appreciate it, man.
Man, it's a 7-3 kind of week. Let's go, boys. Pumped up.
Tom, would you go to the bowl game? Have you been to a bowl game?
Sure. I was
other than Pasadena.
Yeah, I went to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl twice, Houston and South Carolina. I went to the Champs Bowl against Notre Dame in 2011.
Were you covering those, or were you just there?
I covered Notre Dame.
Okay.
And I did cover the Houston game as well. So
all right. It'd be cool, man. If we're going to go to a cool place, maybe.
I hope so. You know, I get that it's better for the fan base if they stay in the state of Florida, but I kind of want to go places. Let's see where this thing could take us.
You want to go to San Diego?
Now, wouldn't that be a non-starter for you, or would you make the trip? What would you do?
Oh, that's definitely a non-starter. So is New York, and you two are high. Like, I know Jeff keeps talking about, I'd love to go to the Pinstripe Bowl. Number one, he wouldn't go. He's all talk and bluster. He's not going. What's he going to get there 5 days before so Ira can write all the stories? Jeff's not going to New York unless he's paying for it, and it's going to be 9 degrees. I mean, it's cool to say you were in Yankee Stadium, but not for a football game. But so don't you think, though, Aslan, I was going to ask you, too, like, if they win this game Saturday, which they're 24-point favorites, they're 8-3. I just can't imagine one of those 2 Florida Bowls or 3 Florida Bowls swallowing them up, right? Don't you see that? Don't you think that too, Tom? Not that we're bowl predictors like Brett McMurphy or anything.
Right, yeah. It's got to be. I mean, it's got to be the state of Florida. I mean, if you had – let's say some sort of Vegas prop that said, will they play their bowl game in the state or outside the state? It's probably minus 850 in the state of Florida and then plus 500 outside the state of Florida. That's what it feels like right now. But, hey, you know what? That's also a great reward for everybody staying dialed into places like warchant.com and Warchant TV is then maybe you get to meet a bunch of us instead of 1 or 2 of us in a remote location.
That's right. Good call, Tom. Good call.
I want them to play in the ReliaQuest Bowl in Tampa, but then I'm like, I'll probably be staying with my mom. That's a far drive. So maybe I'm coming around to you, Corey. Maybe, Tax Slayer. We gotta go back to Jacksonville.
Well, and against an SEC team too, I think would be
both
cool.
are.
And I think this, like I know McMurphy in this latest picks had Florida State playing Utah in San Diego. And it's like, man, why would any of those teams, unless they're mandated by the ACC, why would any of those bowls, take North Carolina over Florida State? Like that just wouldn't make. I know they'd have a better record, assuming they lose to Clemson. So they have 2 losses, and Florida State has 3 or 4. But I just couldn't imagine they're going to take. Why would the TaxSlayer Bowl want North Carolina versus Ole Miss when it could have Florida State versus Ole Miss? It just would make no sense.
I would think, too, that bowl officials don't have to abide necessarily by the tie-in and the priority. Like, if you're the Duke's Mayo Bowl, wouldn't you want a horse trade with a Florida Bowl so you could get North Carolina to play in Charlotte? Because,
amen, brother.
Like, I know it's secondary to the revenue that they get from the sponsor itself, but North Carolina, the gate in a game in Charlotte is going to do way better than one in Jacksonville, and vice versa for Florida State. Not many people are going to travel up to Charlotte, but a lot of them will go to Jayville or go to the Cheez-It Bowl in Orlando.
And they'll get hotel rooms.
Yeah.
And the hotel lobbyists would want Florida State to be there because they know fans would show up for it. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves, aren't we, Tom Lang? We got to talk about the rest of the regular season.
Sort of, though. It's guaranteed that they will be playing in a bowl, which is very different for the first time in the last 5 years that we can say that.
Yeah, I mean, even if they were to tank the next 2 games, which is astronomically low possibility, they're still going to go to a decent bowl game. So win this one. Again, 23.5-point favorite, as Corey said, and then take care of the Gators, and sky's the limit, man. I'll go to San Diego, though, but anywho. All right, Tom, I know Ira was on the show with you and Jeff on Monday talking about just this program being in a really good spot right now, obviously in the stewardship of Mike Norvell right now. I ask you this, with most of the romanticism of sport kind of sucked and beaten out of me, covering this like on a day-to-day basis, whatever this team might lack in overall dynamic NFL talent, man, is there something about this team with at least the buy-in and the personalities that is special that you might not be able to constantly replicate and scale out for years to come? Could there be something of just the way this team is kind of coming together, or is this culture enough? There you go. I said the word, everybody. Is it enough that it's more – the culture is more responsible for what's going on right now than these individual players kind of coming together and buying and believing in it?
I think that's the math that the staff has to do in subsequent recruiting calendar years and with the transfer portal. They have been very selective, especially in the transfer portal. Some guys might have been better players than others, but they vet very hard what they want and the kind of player that they actually have on campus when they're here for a visit. They don't sugarcoat a thing. And if the kid doesn't react to that very well, then they're not going to take the kid because they know that things right now in this state of the rebuild are fragile, and 1 or 2 wrong decisions could throw that out of balance. But I wonder if the math changes on that, because if they believe that the locker room is stable enough and that there's a process of the veterans handing down the culture from one class to another, you might be able to take a chance or 2 more than you were willing to, in the last couple of off seasons. So what do I mean by that? Is it worth it to take somebody who could undo your culture to get from 7 wins to 8 wins or 8 to 10? Is that really worth it? Or is it more worth it to build it the right way? Mike Norvell said this in Charlotte at the ACC kickoff. We're building this thing to last. So are you going to do that first and then maybe allow for guys that might be a little bit riskier, but they can run the 4-3? Like, I think that's the interesting part to watch in the next couple of years. But there's no doubt at this point, you saw the momentum start last season with guys like Jermaine Johnson and Keir Thomas, and they started the ball rolling. Now this thing is rolling full steam ahead, and it seems like there is a passing down from one season to the next. We'll see if it continues on. But right now it seems like everybody's singing Kumbaya in a way they haven't in some time around here.
Corey, it hasn't been installed for that long, so I'm not trying to diminish anything of what Mike Norvell's done, but it's not like this culture has been steeped in this program for decades like it was with Bobby Bowden. So, I mean, I think the players need to take a good amount of credit, too, for buying in and all coming together. I mean, is there anything to the fact that, we think this culture will sustain no matter when these guys leave, but it wasn't like this was passed down from player to player, as you would talk about, LaMarcus passing it down to Jalen, passing it down to Derwin, et cetera, et cetera. Man, is there any credence to thinking that maybe this team is just constructed really special? I mean, they have the right kind of personalities, the right kind of players. They're filling all the proper roles. That it's hard to say that it's always going to be this great, or does it go back to the fact that they're buying in because they believe in what this guy is put together?
Yeah, I mean, I think it has a lot to do with the message from the top. I think they think he's genuine, and that makes it sound like I don't. I think he's genuine too. But as long as the players believe he's genuine, it comes from the top down. And also, one or two players, when you have a strong culture, one or two players can't wreck it.
Yeah.
You either come around and join the culture or you're out. Like they're not in a place now where they would, if somebody came on board that's a 5-star transfer, a 5-star recruit, and he's a malcontent, he won't play. Like he'll be so out of place in what the rest of this team is that he'll look ridiculous. And so and will feel ridiculous, and they'll either kick him off the team or he'll get in line or he'll go somewhere else. I don't think they're going to have guys that sabotage what has been going on, at least not here in the next few years. And look, you're going to lose some guys this year. You might lose a couple early guys, and you're going to lose the Dylan Gibbons and who else? Pokey Wilson, Robert Cooper. But a lot of these guys will come back. So I couldn't imagine you get a couple of high-profile transfers, and they come in and say they're prima donnas or they're divas. Well, Kalen DeLoach isn't going to put up with that. Tatum Bethune's not going to put up with that. Like these guys that have been around, Shaheem Brown, I think because they've lived it, man. I think the guys that were here in 2020 aren't going to put up with the guys that come on 2023 when they're coming off a 9 or 10 win season and let them sabotage the culture. I think that's what they'll find out what the Florida State way is now. And I think there is such a thing as the Florida State way now because of what Mike Norvell has done these last 3 years.
I mean, again, I'm not trying to overstress this thing, Tom, but I wonder, again, we just look at how good this looks right now. And we think if they add X, Y, and Z and player 1, 2, and 3 comes back, then we're thinking like playoff next year, which, I mean, that probably isn't that crazy to talk about at this point. But I wonder, man, if this team is just kind of has just the right mix. And it's hard to replicate that, man. Every team is different. And I just wonder if there's something kind of different about the way these guys are all coming together that we won't be able to replicate next year. But it sounds like you and Corey both think that's really not the case, man. Ultimately, these are good players, and it's a good coaching staff scheming stuff up on a week-to-week basis. That's being the reason for the success.
Yeah, I think it's just that there has been a consistent message. It's no coincidence that when things deteriorated after the 2013 championship team, you had guys that were allowed to skate if they didn't follow the protocols that existed before, and they still were playing on Saturdays. And then there's like Jalen Ramsey, for example, who in his own right can be a headache, said after the Oklahoma State game in Arlington that it didn't surprise him that game was so close because they hadn't been practicing very well and they weren't paying attention to the details. And at the time, that was an eyebrow-raising comment because Florida State was in the midst of winning 29 straight games. And little did we know that small comment that appeared in Corey Clark's piece after the game or any number of people that reported it and heard him say it, that those words were telling you what was to come for Florida State's program, that they had allowed for rot to build up from the core and affect that program to the point that we had to watch what we did the last 5 seasons. So it can happen quick. But I don't think Mike's going to fall asleep at the wheel magically over the next couple of years. And he might have had to make decisions that put culture over talent solely first the last couple of off seasons to make sure that they build this thing the right way. But I think where I agree with Corey is the majority of players in that locker room for the foreseeable future are not going to allow 1 or 2 kids to turn this whole thing around the negative way. Now, to your point, Aslan, I think that this group is actually it's quite special because you've got a lot of kids that bought in for the right reasons or they were misfits for previous coaching staffs here in Tallahassee or where they were before they entered the transfer portal and came to Tallahassee, and they're all in this together on a unique ride. And that's what makes this season so fun is all of their faith, along with the faith of the fan base, has been rewarded because they've gone on a journey of faith and faith alone. There was no proof of concept at Florida State. That's why it feels so special this year. And I don't think from a fan's perspective you can replicate what we're watching this year because it's like a discovery process, and that's a whole lot of fun.
And what's different about it too, though, is let's say this team does win out and finishes 10-3. Well, at Florida State, I know we're going to be very excited, and that's a great year, and it's a great year for Norvell and a great comeback after a 3-game losing streak. But at Florida State, a 10-3 season, number 11 finish is kind of like all right, big whoop. Like, all these fans have dealt with this. You don't come to Florida State to lose 3 or 4 games. So I wouldn't think that they would say you get a majority of the guys back. You lose Verse and you lose Jamie Robinson. Everybody else comes back. Well, those guys that are coming back, they haven't accomplished enough to coast. What have they done? They finished second in the ACC Atlantic? Great. You won a December 30th bowl game? Awesome. You still haven't done what good teams at Florida State do, so they'll still have something to prove. Like, this team is hungry. Like that 13 team was hungry, desperately hungry. And that 14 team was not at all. I think they would still come back with the same mindset because they would still have something to prove. 10-3 ain't it. I mean, it's awesome. It is a great bridge to something better, but 10-3 isn't a culmination of something. 10-3 is the start of something. I would think would be their attitude and Norvell's attitude.
Tom, one last thing before I let you go, or we can keep talking. It's fine. But I wanted to kind of pivot back to the press conference on Monday. You know, Mike Norvell kind of opened up his press conference, at least talking about the Syracuse game, really complimenting the defense. I mean, describe to me this defense, what we're seeing right now, what is allowing them to be so successful. You know, in terms of eye test, like we're not seeing 11 dudes with their hair on fire just running to the ball and just swarming. But, man, they're just solid, for lack of a better term. They're just solid. They're not allowing any big plays. Corey's talked about that throughout the podcast this season. They've been limiting big plays all season long. Is it Fabian's return? Is it Jared creating a lot of attention? I mean, what are some of the things you point to when you look at this defense? And do they look to you like the defense that's 13th in the nation or whatever it is in points allowed and 15th or whatever in yards allowed per game?
Yeah, I don't know that I would describe them as dominant per se. They're trending in an area that looks much more dominant. I think there's a lot of factors there. Fabian coming back helps change things because it limits what the offense can do against them in terms of running the ball. They're 70 yards better a game with Fabian Lovett in the 5 games he's played versus the 5 games he has not in terms of what they've allowed on the ground. So that's a start. The last 3 games you've had.
That's an enormous number, by the way.
It
is an impossibly high number.
Well, competition too, but still. No.
Well, I'd say that's another part of the equation is the competition level. Yeah, that's true. That's part of it. But then also, I'm seeing a group that gets downhill a lot faster and they tackle in the open field a lot more frequently. So that tells me that confidence is there at play as well as development and confidence. There was a point in practice, I think it was 2 weeks ago, where some of those blitzes early in the season that took forever to get home, I watched 2 of them in a row get to the quarterback at light speed. And I thought, oh, well, that's better. And you're seeing that in games now, some of the times that they overload. Kalen DeLoach, in the beginning of the year, some weeks he'd be shot out of a cannon and others you go, man, he looks tentative. He looks as confident as he has. You got guys like Renardo Green making plays in space, batting passes down that maybe he was in phase for, and they were completed early in the season. So I think you got a lot of things going on. Starts with Fabian Lovett's health and Jared Verse being closer to 100%. That's big. The talent level of your opponent has gone down. That helps some. But then you can't deny that they're flying around at least closer to the line of scrimmage, some of the linebackers and safeties, more than they have been in weeks prior. It's like last year, Aslan and Corey. Towards the end of the year, they took off and they developed. I think the challenge next season for this defense will be start out that way. It's not illegal to look like that in September, and we'll see if they can do that.
How do you process these 3 opponents then, Tom? As you use well, Corey, I'd like to hear both of you guys talk about this. Like if they took that 3-game stretch, if they would have taken the Carolina teams and Clemson and put them here in November, and we would have had Georgia Tech, Miami, Syracuse, in October, are they still 7-3? Are they 9-1? How do we need to look at it? Because Corey's mentioned this too, obviously here, Tom, is the fact that no one else is doing this to Syracuse. I keep getting them confused. No one is blowing out Syracuse. No one's really blowing the doors off Georgia Tech since Brent Key's been there. Same thing with Miami when they're not turning the ball over 8 times. So there's something there that Florida State's doing that other teams aren't doing. But, it's a different caliber of opponent that we're seeing. How have you kind of sort of processed the way they've looked while weighing it against the competition and how it would look if they were playing Wake Forest this week or Clemson this week versus a month ago?
I'm curious, Corey, what you got?
Yeah, no, I think I've said, or I said on the last show, if they would have won those games 26-20, I would be more inclined to say those were opponent wins. You were just playing teams that you were superior than. What they're doing to these teams, completely curb stomping them, to elicit a fun molly-whopping. Curb stomping is a fun image, right? So when you think about that and what they look like, I think they would beat, and especially the way Sam Hartman, in my opinion, has looked the last 3 weeks and the way that offense has kind of come back to earth, I think they would beat Wake by 2 touchdowns. I think they would beat NC State with their freshman quarterback by 3 scores. And I think they might still lose to Clemson just because I have to see them beat Clemson. So I think if they flip these teams, because you could have beaten these teams without Fabian Lovett.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have been by 40 points, but you would have beaten these teams without Fabian Lovett. You couldn't beat those teams without Fabian Lovett. So if you switch them now and you had a healthy Fabian and a more healthy Jared Verse, those are 2 NFL defensive linemen, and you don't have many of those. I think you're probably 9-1.
Yeah, I full consensus here. And, if Jared Verse by himself was fully healthy for the Wake Forest game, you might win that game outright because you saw what he did in 25 snaps. He created a whole lot of havoc. What if that was there in the first half?
Plus, you'd have a Patrick Payton that was Patrick Payton now instead of a guy still learning. Joshua Farmer, too. You'd have these guys with more experience in these bigger games.
Yeah, that's part of it. When Payton or Farmer is the third guy you've got to consider on a 4-man front as an offensive line, that's an advantageous place to be. And these guys have grown up real fast. I would agree. 10-0, I think, is a lot to ask for if you flipped the previous 3 games that they played with a 3-game losing streak. But I don't think 9-1's out of the question. And it's just that's the killer. A lot of people focus on the NC State second half as the moment of, damn, what could have been. For me, it's close the game out against LSU, and Fabian Lovett is a part of these games because he got hurt on that final drive of the game. That's the big what if to me.
Still goes back to that pitch at the goal line.
Yeah.
Flipping Norvell. Come on, man.
I'm not going to take that bait. But what I am going to say is that regardless of whatever that moment is where you go, damn, what could have been, what is pretty damn special too. And that's what, the best part about this game and then the home finale against Florida is it's building to a crescendo, boys. That game against Florida on a Friday night, before they beat the crap out of Miami, I didn't know how many people were going to get in the car, get on a plane, and come down here for the Thanksgiving holiday.
They're all coming.
Oh man, this whole town. We lamented that Clemson was raucous, but it could have been a whole lot more if they closed the deal against NC State. You're getting that atmosphere that we were hoping for Black Friday night. It's going to be real special around here.
There's going to be more juice in that game than it's been for a long while, I think. Yep. I know it doesn't have national title implications, but I think from where this program has been, where they want to go, where we think they can be, that game is going to be a real big statement to kind of let us know exactly just how close they are to that kind of path. What are you doing this weekend, Saturday, Tom Lang? Can people come hang out with you if they want? And maybe even Friday, too.
Of course they can. I actually have some buddies coming up from Tampa that I went to undergrad with. So they'll be at Hotel Indigo, oddly enough, because I'll be there. And that's a 10 o'clock show at Hotel Indigo. Doors open at 9:30. That's on Saturday. That's the pregame version of the stuff. They'll get Bloody Marys and mimosas for you. But you can actually start your weekend Friday night at Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 5:30 p.m. for the happy hour program. It'll be Jeff and Corey. Last time we were on the air, I played musical chairs with those guys. That was fun. Sitting on the stage.
We had to go to the bathroom.
They had bathroom breaks, so I was ready to go for bathroom duty. But 5:30 to 6:30, Corner Pocket Bar and Grill on Friday. Hotel Indigo, 10 a.m. Doors open 9:30 if you want to get your mimosa or Bloody Mary on. And then the watch-along program, you know all about that, Aslan. First half begins noon, and then we do the post-game show. And then I guess we're all watching some Pac-12 football after that because they got some interesting Pac-12 games on a Saturday night.
Not many other good games on Saturday, but that's one. I was going to ask you, Tom, so 2 things. Number one, will people in this corner pocket be able to hear us on Friday?
I'm going to get a PA if I'm going to have to buy it out of my own pocket. Yeah, I mean.
Well, okay. Well, we'll make Bill buy it. We're the talent, right? He's got to pony up. But also, you and Jeff have both promised to do keg stands.
Yes.
I don't know what Ira decided to do. What did he say? He was going to drink some Don Julio or something?
A 2-beer funnel. He will do.
Oh, that's right. He was going to be a 2-beer funnel.
Aggressive.
Aslan and I will come up with something. But Jeff and I said if they beat Florida to finish the season 5-0, because we're not going to be able to have a happy hour
Correct.
on Thanksgiving before the Florida game.
Mhm.
Would you go to Corner Pocket on Saturday at some point and help us film a 30-minute post Florida, post 9-3 happy hour at Corner Pocket during college football Saturday? We could even do it at like 11:30, so we don't interfere with any of the rivalry games.
Oh yeah, no, that's agreed to, because that's when this whole
That's when the keg stands would happen, right?
That's when it would all happen. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm already committed to it. And here's the thing: if it does happen, what we'll do is we'll film all of that to keep Bill's beautiful vinyl flooring from getting warped. We will film that on the outdoor deck. So we'll have the whole thing, and I've got it all planned out. So we've got a stage, we've got a setting, and yes, they've got to finish the dream here and finish 5-0. But that would be the quick turnaround. We will be out there on the deck in the 11 a.m. hour before rivalry Saturday at CP. That'll be
perfect. All right, you guys heard it. So just start rooting for that. Start rooting for a 5-0 finish. You'll get to see keg stands and Ira funneling. Good grief, Ira's going to funnel. He's going to throw up.
Gene is going to do it as well. Yeah. So the pressure's on, guys.
All right, well, I'll sip my Mios and half a shot of vodka and look on from the sidelines.
Tom Lang, executive producer of The Jeff Cameron Show, director of original content for warchant.com. Check out his observations on warchant.com, as well as all the good video he's doing for us over on Warchant TV. That's the YouTube channel for Warchant. It's a piece of cake. It's totally free. Check it out. Thanks, Tom.
I love talking about blowouts every week. I look forward to next week for another one.
Let's do it.
See you guys.
All right, so they pay me the big bucks here at warchant.com to do things like this. Stick around late to tack on. It's like an hour-long podcast now to talk about basketball. Florida State 0-3 now on the year. But, hey, they got Florida coming to town on Friday. Maybe it'll all change, hopefully. They fall 79-72 against Troy. Another one of those pay games where they, pay a team to come here to beat up on them, but, doesn't work out the way you intended. Florida State never led by more than 2 in this game. I don't even know if they led by 2 for even more than a minute of, real time, not even, game clock. It's a struggle right now for Florida State. They fall 79-72 to Troy. Troy gets up 21 more shots than Florida State had. Florida State turned the ball over 9 more times, 19 times versus Troy's 10. It's going to be a tough hole to dig out of for Leonard Hamilton. Now, he's got every reason to have all the sort of benefit of the doubt, the equity built up. You folks that are out there tweeting, fire Ham, I mean, come on, man. Come on, figure it out. Do better. They're down to 7 scholarship guys. They played that game with about 6 scholarship dudes for 35 minutes because Matthew Cleveland fouled out with about 5 minutes left in the game. So not a lot of options right now, figuratively and literally, for the Noles. In the postgame, Leonard was asked about, do you have to kind of maybe start thinking about playing some more zone defense because, playing man for 40 minutes with only 7 guys is a lot to ask, and it's just one of those things where I say, listen, man, I've been here for 20 years. We've maybe run zone 20 times. It's one of those things that you really can't just flip a switch and go to. It's a really difficult thing that you have to drill over and over. But did also leave the door open to the fact that, maybe they would have to look into that. But he comes back and talks about the fact that when you're losing, the worst thing you can do is start trying different things. You need to kind of believe in who you are, believe in your systems. He did say there's 3 or 4 things they feel like they can constantly go to, and it's part of what they've always had in terms of running schemes offensively. But they might have to simplify it because they're just so young, man. He laments the fact that their veterans are guys that have only been here now for 2 years. They're going to their second season. Guys like Matthew Cleveland, Caleb Mills, Cameron Fletcher. These are your senior leaders, if you will, and they're not seniors. So they are young, but they are who they are. He's not running from it. He's admitting these. He's pointing out the issues. I think he's recognizing these issues. He's explaining it, not necessarily making excuses. But again, they fall to Troy 79-72. Just offensively, Caleb Mills maybe got to start figuring things out, getting things a little bit more cooking. 4 of 9 on the night, not terrible, 14 points. Cameron Fletcher was 6 of 10 with 15. Darren Green, the UCF transfer, sniper, 7 of 9 from behind the arc with a game-high 24 points for the Noles. So some good things to build off. Matthew Cleveland, though, very quiet night, only 3 shots from the field, only 3 points. Leonard kind of explained that they're taking away a lot of the driving lanes from Matthew, and they need to figure out ways to open things back up for him because without Matthew stirring the drink, it's going to be a long season for Florida State. So They'll rest up, and they got Florida coming to town on Friday, who fell to FAU at home on Monday night. So they're not coming up here looking all that great either. We'll see if that could be the elixir for the Noles to get back on track. Hopefully it is. It's supposed to be raining all day Tuesday morning, so that's going to be great at practice, getting rained on. We'll interview, though, the coaches and the players after practice. Might even have some practice video up. Thinking between you and me, everybody that's still listening to the podcast, probably go out to practice on Tuesday. Probably not going to go out on Wednesday. But I'll be out there Wednesday to do the interviews afterwards. Might sleep in a little bit. It was a long one. It was a long one on Monday, everybody. Went out to the press conferences. Did the pod here with Corey and Tom. Did the Coop show. Went to the Civic Center. Did postgame. Kind of long. Kind of a long day. It stretched out over the course of 12 hours. So I'll mail it in a little bit on Wednesday. But I'll probably end up doing Warchant report or something. But you know who's not going to mail it in? Corey Clark, Irish O'Fell, Tom Lang, everybody else. We'll have practice observations on the website. We'll have interviews up on the thread over at warchant.com. Probably some sort of insider report maybe. Actually, I don't want to say that. I want to put more work on Irish shoulders, man. Our guy was up at Syracuse all weekend long by himself doing all that work. So stay connected to the warchant.com. We're all the ultimate Seminole sports source. There's no promo code. It's only $10. Join. Figure it out. Get involved. Hit the thumbs up, please, as well. That'd be cool. I can't. Was this 5 minutes that we did? Everybody rambling about basketball? Not even 5 minutes. Felt like forever, though, didn't it? Didn't it? I love you guys. For Corey and Tom, thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. I'm Aslan Javandi. Have a great one. We'll see you on tomorrow's show, live show Thursday, and we'll see you over at warchant.com in the meantime. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock coming up. Think I made it over 5 minutes. Let's go. I lied. It's Tuesday. It's headlines 1 to 3 o'clock. My bad. Now we can go.